It actually cut my artery, my veins, all the nerves on my hand just froze open. You know how it builds up to that, love them and leave them. I hit that note. Bentley's wife comes from out of the kitchen. She looked and she said, "That's your boy." I dreamt of being able to do this.
Everybody come along. We gon' dance on the funk and make love on the song.
All right, I'm Randall Bostick. Some people call me R2. My occupation, I'm a singer, I'm a bass player, currently performing with Rick James Stone City Band, and I have a tribute band called the U&I Tribute. And I grew up in Southern California, so I left Ohio, I think I was about 5 or 6 years old. My father moved us out to San Bernardino. He had a job in Pomona, first black director working for a big aerospace company out there in the 60s, so that was a big thing. So it allowed us to live in a kind of upper echelon neighborhood. At 12 years old, mom and dad split, and my life's gonna change, obviously. It could have been a lot worse than it was. Thanks to my mom, rest in peace, Mom, I love you. She always kept us in a good spot where there was never any drugs or gang violence or none of that junk, so. And that's when I first got into music. 64, I saw the Beatles. They came in on Ed Sullivan's show, and I think I was about 7 years old, sitting in front of the TV, and I watched these guys, and I saw what was going on, and I'm like, wow, this is the crowd reaction, the fans, people, girls passing out, I'm just delirious. And I said, well, that's what I think I want to do. And it took about 4 years of asking for a guitar, asking to be around some music with my parents, and that Christmas, I got the guitar, and my parents split up, so I just used to sit in my room, clicking on that guitar until I could finally play some things. It was about, with the guitar, probably about 3.5, 4 months, I was doing some songs. Then I had a very bad accident. I was banging on a window. My little baby brother ran out the house, and I was banging on the window to get him to come back, and as I was banging, the glass pane broke, and I panicked and snatched my hand back. So it put a really bad scar on me. It actually cut my artery, my veins, all the nerves on my hand just froze open. Blood was hitting the ceiling, and I'm 12, I panicked. I started running outside, panicking, my mother was gone. A neighbor pulled up across the street and happened to look, ran over and tackled me. He was in the military, he took his belt off, wrapped it around my arm and tightened it up, so he stopped the bleeding quite a bit. Asked where my mom was, and said, hey, she's not home. He rushed me to the hospital. That man saved my life. Mr. Russell, I don't know if you're still alive. If you are, thank you for saving my life. If you've already gone, may you rest in peace. You did me a serious favor. With the split up of my parents, my mom moved us to Colton, California, and got with one of the guys over there and found out he played guitar, and another guy was a singer, and somebody else down the way played drums. So we was like, hey man, let's form something. Just started doing cover songs, man. It came easy. You know, I could sing, I think, a little better than I could play. Back then it was, oh my goodness, man, Hendrix, Purple Rain, Eric Clapton, we did some Cream, we did Three Dog Night, we did James Brown, Edwin Starr, 25 Miles, we did some Archie Bell and the Trails, Buffalo Springfield. I think the oldest was probably 14, but we played the songs, man. They sounded like we'd have parents and families come out on the weekends while we'd set up on the grass, and they'd come out and bring their snacks, picnic baskets, and watch us play and eat and play, and kids were swinging, and we had a good time. After a few years, Mom's had enough cash, and she met a nice gentleman that we moved into Fontana and had this house. And by that time, I think I was probably 16, going on 17. So now it's time to think about getting a car, and I have my eye on this 63 Chevy. Man, I wanted this car so bad. In Fontana, you gotta understand, back then, you know, everybody was, if you weren't low riding, you weren't doing no riding. So they were doing the hydraulics and all the transmission fluid leaking out in the driveway and all that, but I had to have one. So My mom started dating this guy, and eventually they got real serious, so we moved in there. But he was just like a pops to me, David Logan. There'll never be anybody in my life that I think would have ever done the things that he did for me. But he went on and got me that '63 Chevy, man. It was like a graduation present. So I had my car, I was in Fontana, and now I'm like old enough to really go out and play in clubs, which back then, as long as you took care of yourself, you weren't in there acting like a kid, you could pretty much get into any club. My brother-in-law, my first wife's brother, that just came back from Vietnam, and he was like 6 or 7 years older than us in the group. And he was raving about the opportunity and the travel and the money and going over to the Orient and getting clothes designed, and just it's the way to go. So me and my best friend, who was a guitar player that I met in high school, we're looking at each other, man, we ought to do it. Yeah, let's check into it. Went down to the recruiter, fed us all those lies about, oh, you can do this, you can do that, be all you can be. Yeah, you just want another check mark on your tally. But anyway, we joined on the buddy system, so I went Army because they had an enlistment bonus that I thought I could use once I got out. Playing bass, and eventually we had people standing around looking. Those that could play would, hey, do you mind if I sit in? Come on. And after about 2 or 3 weeks of that, the musicians that actually came and sat in and gave us their time and talent found out they were all in the same barracks that we stayed in. So everybody was right there in house. So we formed that group within Combat Support, 3rd Battalion, 32nd Infantry. And our command sergeant major found out he had some soldiers under his command that were pretty tough playing music. He became our manager. So when we went out to field exercises, everybody's got their backpacks and their M16 and their canteen and their boots and their war paint, their helmet. We dressed like this with our hair combed out and our basses and guitars in our hands, and we went to the field that way. The name of that band was called Undecided, and the reason it was called Undecided is because we couldn't come up with a name. We brought in one of Donnell's friends from Japan because they were in a military circuit together. Their fathers were military. Patrick Branson was our drummer. We had a tight band, and it seemed like every band that I progressed to was better and better than the last one. So I knew progressively this music thing is really starting to click. You know, the more I move forward, I'm meeting some dynamite cats that are really knowing what they're doing, and it sounded a lot better. Horns started coming, keyboard players that sound like they have three hands. It was all good. And by then it was 83-ish, 84-ish, so the songs had changed. I mean, we were doing Prince, we were doing Shalimar, we were doing The Whispers, we were doing some Bootsy, we were, keeping these people dancing. We prided ourselves on doing songs that everybody else wouldn't touch. The musicians that we had were a cut and above exceptional. So there wasn't anything that we couldn't do. With Hit and Run, we were doing a show. We did mostly Air Force, or I shouldn't say Air Force, military bases. We did Vandenberg, we did Nellis, we did Norton, we did March, we did 29 Palms, Camp Pendleton. So we were always at the military bases because Donnell's father was a retired Air Force man, and he started managing us, so he had connections within these NCO clubs. So we were doing that kind of stuff. And the bands were hot. I mean, everywhere we played, we had a great rapport. So as I moved further into it, did I start getting set up to meet all the people that I've had the privilege to meet and be on stage with. We formed this group called the Old School Masters because the three of us together would go out to the American Legion. And we'd just go out and have a couple beers, and they would set up and they'd have a band play. Hey, anybody want to come and sit in? And we three look at each other, let's go. And we'd go sit in, I'd grab the bass, the drummer would grab the drums, my boy Donnell would grab the guitar. We'd take the gig from them and we'd play all night long because we knew that many songs just from playing in the Army together. And they would let us. They didn't care. They got paid. We had fun. So the Old School Masters became a group in Victorville that now was in demand because the Green Tree, that was the hot spot in Victorville back then. And the Ramada Inn across the freeway from them had heard about these guys that know all these songs. You can hit them with any song and they'll be able to play it no matter what. It's like people really started doing that to us. Hey, I bet you can't play Whole Lot of Love.
Wait, so people in the crowd?
Yeah.
People in the crowd would just yell out songs?
They'd yell out, hey, I bet you don't know that one. And we'd hit them with it. And they're like, man. So that's...
Now, was there any that you didn't know?
Not yet. Haven't been stumped yet. Somebody knew it. If the guitar player didn't know it, I knew it. And as soon as I started playing it, he'd follow in and we'd have it. I mean, it just happened to be that we had that kind of chemistry. And that's rare when that happens. So that's why I know I've always been around these people that are gifted. You know what I'm saying? So we did a Halloween gig for the Masonic Lodge in Victorville one year. And I said, well, I want to do something that's going to be good because the Masons, they usually have really good turnouts and they got a lot of connections. They're into a lot of things. So I said, I want something that's going to be rememberable. So I looked online. I said, oh, Rick James. I saw a wig. It had the beads on it. And I said, I'll get that wig. I said, but I got to have something that I can wear that's going to look. And I pulled out the Fire It Up album, and he had that white, like, cloak with the stars and the white boots. And I said, yeah. I found a seamstress through Joanne's fabric store. I went in and looked on the board, and it says, I sew clothes. Oh, called her up, told her what I needed. She said, come on by, I'll get measurements. She measured me, bought the fabric, told me I had to pay this amount for a deposit. And about a week later, she called me up, let's do a fitting, put it on. She did the final touches, called me back in about 3 days. Man, I had this costume that looked just like what Rick wore on that album, Fire It Up. I had the outfit, we came out, we did the show, and as soon as I walked out on stage, the crowd, they just, oh man, what? But anyway, I had these big platform boots, and the costume went well, and we turned that gig out. Just so happens a buddy of mine that lived in Fontana actually put the hydraulics in my '63 Chevy back in the day. Said, hey man, and they called me Randy back then. Hey Randy, you need to come to Vegas, man. I've been up here for about 15 years. Man, you look so much like Rick. You need to come up and let's put a tribute thing together. I gotta have some connections. So I said, man, cool. Met up with them. We went in the studio. We started laying tracks for a demo. And the sax player that was there just kept looking and staring and smiling. And break, I saw him outside on his phone. What he was doing, he was calling his roommate, who was a co-manager of Stone City Band, and said, you need to come look at this guy down here at this studio. I know you guys are looking for a new front man. You need to get the boys and come check him out. So by the time we got back on and we're doing our thing again, door opens and these three people walk in. It's Nate and Lannis Hughes from the Stone City Band. They sat back and watched. So after we were finished, they approached me and asked me who I was, what I was doing. I told them blah, 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 blah. I came up to do a tribute thing with my boy Tyrone. And they said, well, we're looking for somebody, Stone City, would you mind doing an audition? I'm in town for another day. So they gave me the address to my boy's house, and he's the keyboard player with my tribute band right now, and also the co-author of Mary Jane with Rick James. They sent me over to Billy Nunn's house. And when I rang the doorbell, his wife opened the door, and the original singer for the Stone City Band was at the door, Levi Ruffin Jr., and he just started with the profanities because he was just shocked seeing me walk through the door, thinking that I looked so much like Rick, because he and Rick were probably the closest two in the whole Stone City Band. They went to, I think, elementary school together. They brought me into the music room. Billy sat on the piano and started playing songs and asked me, sing this. And Levi's looking at me, and I sang that one. He played another one, sing this, and I sang that, and Levi's looking, and they're smiling. I'm thinking, okay, it's all good. They started playing Fire and Desire, and I never will forget it, because I thought I did something wrong. So, you know how it builds up to that, love them and leave them. I hit that note, and all of a sudden, Billy's wife comes from out of the kitchen, and I hit, and leave them. And she looked and she said, that's your boy.
Love them and leave them. That's what I used to do.
And they said, welcome to the family. And so that was my induction into the Stone City Band. When we did cover songs, I never put my own spin on it. I sang what I heard. So if I'm doing something by Luther, I'm gonna do my best to sound like Luther sang it. If I'm doing Michael, and that's what happened when we were doing this Michael Jackson stuff that I used to do. Somebody in Michael's squad was backstage, and they came to the curtain in the wings and was pulling it back, and I noticed they were watching me. When I got off stage and went back to the dressing room, she said, I can't believe how much you sound like Michael. My God, all you need is his moves. But I never was much of a dancer, but I'm gonna sing what I hear. And so I pretty much sang what I heard. So if we did I Really Don't Need No Light by Jeffrey Osborne, you're gonna close your eyes and think Jeffrey's standing there singing it. And yes, man.
When did you realize you could do that? I mean,
It was, man, probably with the Hit and Run band, just before I moved up to Victorville. The clubs that we were playing at, people would come up and always say, damn, you guys sound so much like the record. It's incredible. But Donnell was always the musical director. He had the ear, so he would always make sure the music was right. And because I always copied the vocal, everything sounded right. And that's where we got our praise and glory, because we sounded like the real deal. I was at a Tina Marie concert in '05 in Riverside, California. And I knew I wanted to try to get into this tribute thing, because I had been talking to my guy, trying to make this happen. I went down with picture. I had a CD of some stuff that I had put together for, and when I got to the concert, I was kind of like pushed back by who I thought was her manager. It actually was Rick's sister, Penny. And she was like, well, Tina's busy. I called down, I was in the high desert, and I just, came down to meet with Tina's manager. Well, I'm her manager. And she grabbed a little manila envelope, pulled the picture out. Is this you? No, she said, is this supposed to be you? Well, yeah, it is me. And she said, okay. And she kind of threw it on a chair and said, okay, we'll take a look at it. And that was pretty much it. So I was like, well, I came all this way and I'm not just gonna take that. I was already inside the venue, so I decided to just stay and wait. And so I just started walking all along the perimeter of the wall of the whole arena. Now I'm wearing a white long coat suit like Steve Harvey used to wear, with the big pleated baggy pants, purple silk shirt, purple Godfather hat, and purple and pink gaiters. So I must say I'm sharper than a Safeway Chitlin. So as people start walking into the venue, they see this guy in this white and this purple. Who's this guy walking? And by the time the concert started, now I'm over to the side, but everybody's seen me. Like I made sure I probably walked 40 times around that whole stadium just to be seen. I had a plan. So I'm watching the show from the wings and I'm trying to get close to the stage. Security's kind of pushing us back. So you got to get back. Fire and Desire started. And Tina went into her spiel about, if you love Rick James, say yeah, yeah. And then she went into a little monologue about how she felt about Rick. So I was pushing my way to the stage and the security was like, man, I'm telling you, you got to get back. I said, I can't get back. And I passed him by. I have a necklace that I had made for me, a buddy of mine, Ani McIntyre, a jewelry designer, took the logo off the Come Get It album, The Heart and Wings, precisely forged it in nickel silver, etched it, and made me a necklace. So I have that exact necklace. And I showed Tina, saw that. And she says, did I call you? No, but I like your suit though. Anyway, that's on YouTube. You can find it on YouTube where she calls me up on stage. And I got a chance to do a bit of Fire and Desire with her. And the crowd, they ate it up tremendously.
Thank you very much. Y'all give it up for Randall. Yo, Randall. My boy would have loved that. Yeah.
I kind of spaced out because I thought the whole thing went different. But on stage with Tina Marie, I had brain damage. But I know that there was no other person that I've heard in my life that sounded like Tina. And I'm standing right next to her. She was gifted. Come to find out, the bass player that was on stage that night was Alan McGreer. He wrote or co-wrote Square Biz and Ooh La 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 with Tina. He's the bass player that after he left Rick James Stone City Band, came and got with me and we started the tribute band, You and I. He was on stage that night, so he remembered me coming up on stage, and that might be the reason why he wanted to start this project with me. But you know, so many doors have opened, man. It's incredible, and I know that when I pray, my prayers get answered, and I'm like, God, are you able to bless anybody else? Because it seems like you're giving them all to me. You and I is my tribute band, and it's comprised of 10 people, 11 with myself, but we bring the music of Rick James, Tina Marie, and the Mary Jane Girls. And because we have performers that have played with both Rick and Tina, it gives us that extra edge because the music comes correct, the energy's correct, and we'll be performing here in Vegas on April 15th. If you're in Las Vegas, Craig Ranch Amp, the tribute band will be performing. We're opening up for Lakeside, Rolls Royce, and the West Coast Slave. Going into my retirement, I started writing some music along with a friend of mine from out of Southern California who was part of Old School Masters for a while. Daryl Hunt and I have put some songs together. When I retire, I'm going to start dropping my music. So it's not really Rickish, it's going to be me. But the bands that I'm currently with, the Stone City Band, which I'm lead singer, You and I Tribute Band, I'm lead singer and I do play bass. And just recently, the Legends of Motown out of Oakland have allowed me to come and do some stuff with them too. So I'm actually working with them as well. So we were in Anaheim with the Stone City Band. We had performed the night prior at the Pala Casino. And the following day we went to Anaheim. Forget the name of the venue, but it was a pretty nice venue, very nice turnout. It was actually, I think, sold out. We're out after the gig was over, and I actually had a chance, Dub C came through there and, you know, had a chance to talk with him and chop it up. But anyway, we're outside waiting for the road crew to disassemble all the gear, get loaded up and have our transportation come pick us up. I hear far away, Mr. James, Mr. James. And I hear these footsteps, click, click, click. Mr. James. This guy runs up. Mr. James, I'm sorry, man. I just wanted to meet you. I wanted to talk to you. I wanted a picture with you. You were in Folsom with my dad. I was like, oh no. Yeah, that was probably the most funniest and memorable moment that I think I could share. This kid, and he's probably maybe, I'd say probably 25, 26, maybe 27. But he thought that I was really Rick and that I was in the pen with his dad. You know, this has been such an honor for me. I'm a prayerful man, and I owe that to my mom because I was running buck wild without a dad, and my mom brought me back to the church, got me in tune with God, and I learned to know who God is and know how to respect him and pray to him and give him thanks. When you have that kind of faith, things like this happen. I dreamt of being able to do this, and now I'm doing it. So the next chapter of my life is gonna start. I have music waiting to be recorded, produced, and put out to the masses. And I'm still asking God for those prayers, and he's already assured me that it's gonna happen. So all I can say is, if you're serious about something, keep God first, stay prayerful, stay real, and it's gonna happen.
Things were getting shaky, and I didn't see it coming at all, no. Said you tried to reach me, didn't get a text, and I didn't hear your call, no. Now that you're mad at me, you wanna pack your bag, you wanna walk out the door. Let me tell you, pretty baby, we've been down this road too many times before. I don't want to get the whole thing
Is
away.
that one of your original ones?
That's me all the way.
Man, that shit dope.
Right
I'm like, man, we stole this song from.
I know.